Good evening to the 20 people that have tuned in already. Just wanting to check audio. If you can let me know whether you can hear me, that would be really useful. Just ping a note in the chat window, please.
Testing. Testing. Ooh.
Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in, and thank you to Colin, the speakers, and all of the team who've worked on pulling this fantastic event together. So a quick little introduction on my end. My name's Jess Hyder, and I'm a technical designer at Rare, working on our upcoming title Everwild, which we...
Testing. Testing. Ooh.
Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in, and thank you to Colin, the speakers, and all of the team who've worked on pulling this fantastic event together. So a quick little introduction on my end. My name's Jess Hyder, and I'm a technical designer at Rare, working on our upcoming title Everwild, which we...
Okay, let's try that again. This time with audio. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Something had to go wrong. I'm glad we figured it out a minute in. Hopefully there's nothing else. Thank you very much for coming along. Thank you for those that logged on earlier to help us test the audio. Shame I changed the settings after that. To give you a bit of history, the background to this is that it came from the Games Drinks Scotland event that I've held around Dundee and Edinburgh and Glasgow up until now. But obviously with the virus coming along, those events got put on hold. And really, I just assumed it would be months until we got back to doing them, until I heard from Maurizio at Epic, who'd been chatting to someone from NHS Lothian saying, look, everyone knows there's a great games community in Scotland. Is there anything the Scottish games community can do to help the NHS at the moment? And it suddenly dawned on us that, great, we can try doing this. We'll get the community together, get some great speakers in, and hopefully raise a couple of quid. So I'm glad you've tuned in tonight rather than watching the Great British Sewing Bee or whatever was on telly. We've got a bunch of great prizes. I'll run through them. What we'll do is we'll do a raffle at the end. This will last an hour and a half or so. We've got 8 speakers tonight, so we'll do a raffle at the very end. Everyone that donates anything, for every £1 that you put in, that basically gets you a single raffle ticket. So if you put in £5, that gets you 5 raffle numbers that we'll draw randomly at the end of the night. Make sure that you put your email address on it and that the amount can be seen. Otherwise, I don't know how many tickets to assign you. If you're not watching this live, because it should be up on YouTube afterwards, then you can probably still donate, but don't expect to win any prizes. So what I would like to do is swap to the prizes that we have got. So if I Okay, we seem to have lost the audio. Can you hear me now? If someone can let me know, that would be great. Okay, I think you've got me back. I'll not run through everything again, but just to say, amazing selection of companies that have donated prizes, from Rare to Sega to Yogscast to Yo-Yo Games to Crotos, all very much appreciated. We've got 14 bundles of prizes. Five, I'll not run through them all again, but the first 5 have these 5 games and tools here. So Game Maker Studio 2 desktop license and the other games. The next 3 prizes have these 6 games. The next 2 prizes have these 6 games. So if you're drawn for one of these, you get all six of these games. Some of them are predefined codes for a certain platform. Others, you'll get your choice. We have a Scottish Delights prize, which is these 5 prizes. So this includes 4 copies of Big Crown Showdown, because that's a 4-player multiplayer game, an Xbox gift card worth £50 from Pocket Sized Hands. Grimes, who composed Bard's Tale soundtrack, is giving away a limited edition copy of that. A Dehumanizer license from the guys at Crotos. And we've got two sets of prizes from Sega. So you get all 4 of these games. 2 are on Steam, 2 are on PS4. And then last but not least, the last bundle is these 6 games. And the likes of Control, I just finished myself a couple of weeks ago, so I can highly recommend that. Okay, hopefully we've got all our audio problems solved. I think so. So all that's left for me to say is please donate. Not only does it go to a great cause, you're in with a chance of winning any of these fantastic prizes. I'm slightly humbled in that the last time I checked, already, wow, we're already up to over £1,600. If we'd done this and all we'd raised was half of that, I would have been over the moon. So thank you so much to everyone that's donated so far. Hopefully you get some prizes back in return. But money's going to a great cause. Let's see how high we can get it. So please, if you want to donate again, get more prizes. I've seen a couple of people donate more than once. That'd be awesome. Tweet about this, get other people watching, and let's raise as much as we can. However, enough of me and my mic problems. Let's crack on with the speakers. So first up, we have a very good friend of mine, Nicole Hunt. I'll let him introduce himself. So let me just swap over to him. And I'll let Nikki take it away.
Hello. Hello, is this working? I hope this is working. We'll find out. If it's not working, like, start sending me angry tweets or something. Okay, so Colin said that there wasn't actually any working slides, which apparently is probably due to all these sound issues. So I'm going kind of old school here. Hello, hi. I'm Nicole Hunt. I work at Space Games in London. The London bit probably isn't that important anymore, since where is anywhere anymore. But before I worked at Space Aid, I ran my own company for 5 years called, actually, I'll leave that as a reveal. And it was one of the best things I've ever done, running my own company for 5 years. It was, on pretty much all metrics, a borderline success. And so I'd like to take you on a little journey about why I started my own company, what I did right, what I did wrong, and what I do differently next time. So, why? Why did I start my own company? Basically, I was fed up being told no. No, Nikki, you can't make all the enemy characters bears. No, Nikki, everything doesn't have to explode and be on fire all of the time. I was fed up being pigeonholed and held down and restrained. I wanted to break free and make my own game from concept to release. And that was never going to happen if I was working in a company with 200 other developers. And so I started my own company, and that company was I Fight Bears. And I know what you're thinking. That's an awesome looking logo. You should probably have it tattooed on your body. Well, I'm way ahead of you, buddy. Yeah, that's right. It's permanent. That doesn't come off. Trust me, I know. And so the very first game that I Fight Bears developed was a little title called Fist of Awesome. This Blossom was a time-traveling lumberjack where you played as a time-traveling lumberjack called Tim Burr, who traveled through time and punched bears in the face to save humanity. It was based on a true story. Bear story going forward. So for 18 months of my life, I developed Fist of Awesome. I did pretty much everything myself, with the exception of the soundtrack and some animation. I did everything. I did the code, art, design, writing, PR, marketing, just everything. And did it on all platforms I could at the time, which was like iOS, Android, PC, Mac, Ouya. Do you remember the Ouya? No one remembers the Ouya. And it made an HTML5 version in Japan, which I wish there was more time to talk about. At the time, I can't stress enough, it was a big deal. Not just for me personally, but like it was actually a big deal. People talk about it in like magazines and things. It was shortlisted for a BAFTA. It had a develop nomination, and for a single developer, it made a lot of money. Not enough for me to retire and go on a luxury island the rest of my life, but like enough. And so I promptly spent all of that money buying a house, which is where I still am right now, this very second. But because I spent all that money, now I didn't have any money for this games company to keep developing more games because the money was gone. And so I pivoted quickly. And I met these fellows. This is Jamie and Liam, who go under the moniker Tea and Cheese. And they had some money because they got funding for a game based on a YouTube video they'd made called 8-Bit Water Slide. And so together we made 8-Bit Water Slide, which was an infinite slider game on mobile. You played as a character called Tippler, who kind of like slid endlessly down a water slide. He got like pineapples shoved up his butt, stuff. Like it's basically like a really highbrow humor game, like Frasier, but on mobiles and with more pineapples on people's butts. But 8-Bit Water Slide was a cult hit, which is to say lots of people liked it, but it didn't make a huge amount of money. But it made enough, but not a huge amount. But what it did get was its own freaking arcade machine. Yeah, we got contacted by an arcade company who wanted to use 8-Bit Water Slide as an actual arcade machine. So there's now an actual arcade of a game I made, which is phenomenal, really. Like growing up in Final Fight, like that's it. I made it at that point. I probably could have just given up and gone home, but I didn't. Because me, Jamie, and Liam had so much fun working together, we decided to make another game. And Ancient Games, who had funded 8-Bit Water Slide, agreed to fund another game for us, and so we made Maximum Car. And so Maximum Car initially started off as being like a kind of mix between, actually, let me show you, it's easier to show you with like visuals. So it's like a voxel, it's like a voxel racing game where you crash into other cars and then everything just explodes. So it was meant to be a mix between Crossy Road and Burnout, but as soon as we started development, it was pretty clear that we loved Burnout, and so we just made Burnout with voxel graphics and on mobile. And yeah, it did pretty well. Not amazing at all, but pretty well. It was really big in China for some reason. I don't know if the Chinese just enjoy like exploding voxels and cars, but that's what happened. And so after Maximum Car, I again like gave me some money, but not enough to kind of like fund another game on top of it. And so I got contacted by another company called Brewtown. I got contacted by another company called Hatbox. And Hatbox wanted me to make a game with them, like basically give me money and make whatever I wanted. And I was like, that's a cool deal. I agree. And we made a game called Brewtown together. Brewtown was basically a glorified reason for me to buy lots of craft beer and expense it. Because yeah, that's how business works. We made like beer mats and everything for PR. It was really fun. So again, Brewtown was another mobile game, and it was like a craft beer tycoon game where you could develop your own range of craft beers. That was really fun, and like we put a lot of hard work into it. And so this time it wasn't me, Jamie Lane, it was me and my friend Mike, and a few other people. Again, through all these games, I was always the kind of the lead developer. I did the huge majority of the code, either all or like a big chunk of the design. And yeah, it was the dream I initially planned right there. I got to make the games I wanted to make, and I got my sticky fingers in every part of that pie. But it came to an end, and Brewtown was the last game that iFightBears released. So why, don't let me down slides, why did it end? Well, as I mentioned, I think Bears never had that hit game. It had a Fist of Awesome, which was a very successful game, but it was never enough to kind of fund the next game that would kind of like mean it'd be a self-perpetuating, that's another word, but anyway. And like each game would fund the next game. Like that never happened. It was always reliant on someone else's money to get the next project off the ground, which was exhausting because it usually meant lots of pitching. And sometimes even if you do like a really good pitch, that doesn't mean you get a lot of money. And it's a very long, tiring process. And at the same time, I had increased family commitments. I just had like another second baby, so raising a small family, and while trying to like do making games and run the business side of it as well was just exhausting. And ultimately, I was given an offer I couldn't refuse. And so yeah, I thought Bears came to an end, but it wasn't bad. Like there were really good things came from it. So what good came from running my company? Well, I had a lot of fun. I made some arguably good games. Actually, they were great games. I know they were great, but I've got to be modest for the internet. I met some amazing people who have like become friends for life. I found skills I didn't know. I'd never done like personal speaking. I never done speaking in front of a crowd very much before doing iFight Bears, but I've done lots of it since then. And it raised my profile in this industry. Like before, no one knew who I was. I like did the UI for APB, for God's sake. No one cares who that guy is. And I consistently made money. So like iFight Bears for the entire duration, definitely I made a lot more money than I would have if I was just a normal programmer, as I was previously in the industry. And probably most importantly for me personally, iFight Bears gave me back my love of developing games. But it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. There were definitely things that went bad. Namely the business side of things. I really dropped the ball when it came to retaining IP, with the exception of Fist of Awesome. To make a sequel of any of my games would be like a logistical nightmare involving like contracts between multiple companies and ownership rights. And it was, yeah, I wish I hadn't done that, but I did. I never really nailed the long-term retention on mobile games. Like to be long-term successful with a mobile game, you need to really retain people, so they play it for months, if not years, so you can squeeze as much money as possible out of your user base. It sounds kind of harsh, but that's true. Like it's a business; you need to make money, and I didn't do that well enough. And one of the things that really hurts the most about Bears is I never really got that big project off the ground. Like me, Jamie, and Liam, we pitched really hard to get a really adventurous, ambitious console game off the ground, almost like a pseudo sequel to Maximum Carb, with like everything turned up to 11. And we pitched so hard, we put so much work and effort into it. And we really thought we had something special, but we never got the funding, and that's our fault. But it still hurts. And so like that, on top of like doing all the development and doing all the business stuff, meant that like, yeah, it was really hard work, man. And so it wasn't the greatest time for iFight Bears. If I could do it again, what would I change? Well, I'd be better at business. Be much better at business, or get someone who is good at business to come along with me and kind of help me through. I'd make sure I retain full IP ownership of the IP, of everything I created. Be better at soft launching games and putting analytics in and paying attention to retention stats and all that. You know what? No. I wouldn't change anything. iFight Bears is perfect. It was exactly what it needed to be. It was an incredible experience to got me where I am now. I got the role at Space 8 Games not because of my 10 years in AAA development, but because of the crazy iFight Bear games, because of the bear punching, because of the exploding voxels, because of the wacky beer labels. I'm not just a coder now. I create concepts and designs. I do pitches. I'm involved in every aspect of game development, and my voice is heard. No one says no all the time, because it's a lot harder for people to say no if they know that you fought bears. So yeah, thank you. I love the NHS.
Awesome, that was brilliant. Thank you very much, Nikki. We need to confess, apparently all your slides were backwards, unfortunately, although we did a dry run earlier. the whole broadcast thing flips your slides, but it's fine. They can read
All
backwards.
work.
It's not a problem. There's a couple of questions in the comments. A couple of people asking, can they still buy your old games?
Fist of Awesome's still available, definitely. Actually, yeah, no, you can get all of them. I'm pretty sure all of them are still available. Even when I shut down iFight Bears, I just made Fist of Awesome completely free on all platforms. So it may not be on all platforms, or the ones it is on, it's completely free. So I think it's still on Steam. I think it's still on iOS. Hopefully still on Android. I think it depends on like iOS versions and things.
Cool. Okay. Hopefully you'll see a wee flurry of downloads after that. And then just one other question from me. I mean, you know, obviously your advice is it's hard, but it's great fun. When you started, was obviously a certain point in the ecosystem of iPhone and everything and mobile coming along. Do you think there's still the same opportunity now, or do you think opportunities passed for developers like you?
I think everything's different now. Like, unquestionably, if anyone did what I did like 6 years ago now, it wouldn't have the same effect. There's a lot more kind of pixely games that seem kind of hipsterish. But at the same time, there's a lot more opportunities now. Like it used to be really hard to get on consoles, and now if you've got a good game demo, you can just speak to Nintendo, you can speak to Sony, you can speak to Xbox, and you can get development kits, like usually for free as well if you're kind of struggling indie. And I never had those opportunities. So like, yeah, it's not as easy in some ways, but in other ways, you've got more opportunities. But yeah, there's always younger people doing better things. So just, I don't know, just do what you want to do as quickly as you can is be my only advice.
There may be younger people, but there are no people that have cooler T-shirts and tattoos.
Thank you.
Listen, thank you very much. That's been awesome, literally, fists and all. Thank you very much. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Colin.
Okay, we will jump straight into our next speaker, and we're delighted to have Ron Ashtiani, who founded Atomhawk. So if I just see if we can bring him into the stream.
Hello.
Hello. Great. I'll just leave you to it.
Cool. All right, great. Hello, everybody. My name's Ron Ashtiani. I've been in the video games industry for 22 years. And in that time, I've done a lot of different things. So I started off as an artist, and then I became an art director. And then about halfway through my career, I decided to start a company, which became Atomhawk. And I spent the last 10 years going from being an entrepreneur, going from being an artist really, to being an entrepreneur, to being a CEO, to learning about business. And then eventually this last year, I exited that business. So my talk is called Startup to Grown Up. It's just a bit of fun really, talking about some of the cool things I learned during my business journey. So anyway, first 10 years of my career, I was an artist. I worked at a lot of different games companies. I became an art director, and eventually in 2009, after 10 years, I found myself at Midway Games, where I was head of art. Midway was pretty good, actually. I really enjoyed working there, really good team. But unfortunately, in 2009, when all the the world fell apart, basically, and Midway went into bankruptcy, closed forever. And once again, typical games industry developer, I found myself wondering what I was going to do next. And that's when I got together with some of my team, and I did what all good artists do best in a crisis. We went to the pub. We went to the Gold Medal pub in Gateshead. We had a load of beers, and I sort of talked to the guys about maybe starting a studio ourselves. And I said to them, look, what if we do the best work and we get into movies and we do this, we do that, and we're going to do the best stuff. Everyone was super happy, super excited, probably helped along by all the beers we drank as well. So myself, Pete, Colin and Steve, just like Frodo and his merry group, set off on our quest to learn about running a company. And I think, we didn't know what we were doing really at the beginning. This was us on our first day. We were full of excitement. But the vision we had in the pub of what starting business was going to be like, we had ideas that we were going to be like rock stars in a massive glass office with loads of pine floors, and we ended up here in the Gateshead Business Centre with bars on the windows that you couldn't open and a big Victorian radiator at the end of the room that we couldn't turn off. great times, but we were happy as Larry. We worked hard, and over the next couple of years, we picked up a lot of different cool projects, a lot of different people, and we started to get noticed. You know, we did our first art book. We got asked by J.K. Rowling's team if we would do the illustrations for her sort of projects. So, you know, Atom Hawk was building up as a name. And in 2011, I got an email from a Yahoo account just saying, hi, you know, my name's Charlie. I'm making a movie down in Shepperton. We really like your work. Would you come down and have a chat with us about it? And, you know, from a Yahoo account, I immediately just assumed this was some sort of, well, I thought it was somebody taking the piss, to be honest. But you know, I just happened to think, want to be in London anyway that week. So I went down, and lo and behold, it was the real deal. It was Marvel, just starting off their production in Shepperton. So we worked on Thor 2, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Avengers Age of Ultron. And it completely transformed my studio. You know, we went from the 4 guys in that sweaty little room to suddenly being 18 people in a state-of-the-art office overlooking the river. And it just happened overnight, really. And that was, you know, I mean, it was amazing. We were really, really pleased with ourselves, and we'd done really well. I think what we hadn't realized was that because, you know, I know in the great scheme of things, going from 4 people to 18 people over 3 years is not what you'd call rapid growth. For us, having never run businesses before, it was pretty rapid growth. And there were a number of things that we hadn't really factored in when we were building this business that was basically just exploding and going super well. One of the things was that we were steadily every year starting to make less money, even though we were growing. And that was largely because we had no systems through which that we could actually track where our money was coming from. We were so busy doing the work and thinking, hey, is this work really cool? That we weren't really looking at, you know, things like profit ratios and things like that, proper business stuff, basically. The other thing that we started to realize, once I saw this, obviously I started to panic. And next thing I started to say, well, can we get a KPI report? Now, at the time, we didn't have any key performance indicators in the company. You know, we were just making cool art, you know, and getting paid for it. But it was time, you know, I suddenly started to realize that I needed to start getting some actual metrics from this business. And the first ever report we did is this, the simplest chart you can ever see. And what it shows us is that basically half of our projects went over budget, and some of them went so far over budget that we were actually paying for the privilege of working on them. So that was a big learning curve there. The findings went deeper, and we quite quickly realized that our poor KPI reporting was a problem. We didn't have any real scalable processes or tools. We had a lot of capability and training issues. You know, when you consider we grew from being a team of 4, what made a good manager or a good lead in a team of 4 is not what makes a good manager or lead in a team of 18, and it's not what makes a manager or a lead in a team of 40. And we just hadn't really sort of developed the people to be able to deal with the roles as we went forward. We weren't very good at estimating projects. You know, we had a project manager in the company at the time who had started off as our office manager, and they hadn't got any formal training as a project manager. They were just pretty good at organizing things. So, you know, that didn't really work for us. And I went on a big sort of mission at that point to learn about business and get good at it. And I needed to get good at it bloody quickly. So I talked to a number of different people who had already built and run a few businesses. I talked to a few coaches, and the things that came through, one of them was that someone in the business needs to be working on the business and not in the business. And, you know, it's very easy when you're a creative person, whether an artist or a game developer who starts his own studio, to want to do the work and to want to run the business. And the truth of it is, if you're doing the work, you usually can't see the wood for the trees. Somebody has to have a view of the strategic road ahead. Also, you need to have a plan, because if you haven't got a plan, you basically got no map to get you through the world. So you know, one of the other things that I realized was, you know, I built a 3-year plan at the beginning of starting the company, but I hadn't bothered to update that plan. So at the end of year 3, I was like, yay, I've won. I've basically, you know, fulfilled all my goals for the last 3 years. not really thinking about, well, what's the next 3 years look like? What does the next 3 years look like? And you have to have that plan, because there's no other way to track against it. The other thing I learned is business development is like eating. You've got to do it regularly if you want to get big. And what I mean by that is, what we would do is we would tend to get a job in a project, whether it be a game or a piece of art or whatever, movie, and we would work away on it for maybe 6 months to a year. And then only when it was coming right to the end would we go out and start selling again to try and get the next project in. And the problem with that is every time we go out and sell, we're starting from the bottom again. So it's a bit like, you know, trying to get fat or trying to go to the gym. You've got to do it all the time. We just weren't doing that. So by starting to sell all the time, get out there and look at what projects were there, we got much better at it. Developing a KPI dashboard so we can see the problems before they happen in the business. We restructured a bunch of roles. I hired a load of new managers into the business, and I hired at the time the best that I could afford, and it was absolutely worthwhile. And I would say that, you know, to anyone, you know, sometimes when you've got a small company, you've got a mate who's quite organized, who's maybe an assistant producer or an associate or something, and you think, yeah, bring them in as a producer. You've really got to ask yourself, is that going to work? You know, do you need someone really senior? Do you need someone with more expertise? The other thing we realized was that for some of our clients, we were just not getting a good deal. You know, we weren't getting very good rates. They were messing us about a lot over like iterations. They wanted lots of extra things doing as part of the project. It's very common in game development in general, is, you know, that whole sort of feature creep aspect. We were just getting that as much as anyone. And so, you know, I went back and I renegotiated a lot of our contracts. And for the contracts that I couldn't renegotiate, I just stopped working with those people. You know, at the end of the day, why spend your time working on stuff when you're not making any money from it? And that was a really big move. It was a bold move, but it paid off for us. So the next big thing was moving on to processes and automating whatever we could. You know, if you think about it, if there's things that could be automated in the business, if there's things that you can turn into a process, it takes it out of the heads of your people, and then your people can focus on being creative and forward thinking and not being reactive all the time. So, you know, we went through a whole stage of looking at everything in the business, turning it into process and automating. And, you know, strangely, well, not strangely, very positively, that work that we did in that sort of year of 2014 really paid off. The business side of the company really recovered. We saw some really significant growth. You know, we doubled in size over the next few years. We worked on a whole load of awesome games and movies, and the company went on to be really successful. So successful, in fact, that in 2017, I actually got a number of offers from different people, and I sold the company to Sumo Digital, which, you know, it's what, like 2.5 years ago now. But shortly after, you know, the sale, I realized I needed to start growing my team. And this was the next part of my journey, was to start growing these people who would really take this business over from me, and free me up to go on my next adventure. So that's me done. Awesome stuff. Cheers.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Ron. Sorry, it's taken me a little moment just to
all right. I think you're going to leave me hanging there.
It's all good. Some brilliant points there that hopefully there's a lot of people tuned in tonight are going to take on board. Your point about needing someone to work on the business rather than is in the business. Obviously, a lot of companies are quite small. I mean, what's your thoughts on how dedicated that person needs to be in terms of their time, not their commitment?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, obviously that talks a very simplified version of what really goes on, and you know, it was years of work actually to get this stuff right. But I think one of the things is, I think whoever's going to be working on the business can't be a billable asset, really. It's very, you know, you can't be sort of saying, okay, I'm the lead programmer in this business, or I'm the creative director, and I'm also going to do every single bit of work in the company. And, you know, I got myself in quite a mess doing that. You know, to be honest, I kind of got to the point where I couldn't see the wood for the trees because I was doing too much. But I think also you can delegate. And I think if one of the exercises I did was take everything that needed to happen in the business, everything that I was doing, and then looked at everything that I had to be doing, because it was just me, you know. So for example, I knew all the customers, so I therefore had to really be doing the sales. I knew how the business worked, so I had to be doing the strategy. But there were other things I was doing, like ordering IT equipment and stuff like that, which I could definitely not be doing. So they're the things, you know, doing a regular sort of check and delegating what you can is key, I think.
But there's some of the fun things. You don't get, as boss, you get to keep the fun things, no?
I think also, you know, when you have those days where you just can't be asked and times are really tough, you think, oh, I'll just order the computers now. That's nice and easy. But that's also a bad thing. You know, I know quite a lot of CEOs who default to the easy tasks like that because it's a stressful job.
Yeah. Perfect. That's been awesome. We're short on time, so we'll crack on if that's okay. Thank you very much for coming on tonight. That's been super useful.
Well done, Colin. Cheers. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much. Cheers. Okay, that was Ron. Let's just have a quick look at how our donations are doing. I can refresh. Oh wow, we're up to over £1,800. That is amazing. I'm presuming that means we're going to hit £2,000, which is yeah, I wouldn't have bet we'd get anything like that. So thank you so much for all the donations. We will crack on. We've got a bunch of other great speakers. Next up, if I can manipulate this and bring them into the stream, we have Thomas from ICO Partners. Thomas.
Hey, good evening.
Let you take it away.
Sure thing. Hello, everyone. So my name is Thomas. Thomas Bidot. I run a company called ICO Partners. I'm French, so I don't have the lovely Scottish accent. Apologies for that, but I'll try to stay on topic. So I've been in the game industry for 20 plus years now. First half of my career, I was working at publishers, publishing online games, online MMORPGs. And I'm here to talk about why I'm no longer working with a publisher, I guess, and why I'm working with more and more studios, even if I do still work with publishers. So in 2008, I left NCSoft Europe, which was my employer at the time, to start up ICO Partners. And my main motivation was help more people self-publish their games. And I'll explain a bit more why in a bit. But first, I want to talk about publishing and how publishing is a different thing now than it used to be. So I think when you talk about the relationship between a studio, a development studio, and a publisher, a lot of people think that the focus of what the publisher does in that relationship, there's like 3.5 big things they do. Number one is funding. They provide money to make the games most of the time. They do distribution, especially true 20 years ago when I started, where you had to put your game in boxes and shelves and all that sort of things, and you had to have a lot of cash in hand to be able to build these boxes and manage that process. The third big thing is marketing. Bringing awareness in the project. The very widest, most comprehensive definition of marketing you can think of. This is what people have in mind when they talk about publishing. And I said 3.5, and the half is kind of like a number of things that sits in between publishing and development for many people, and that could be things like going through age ratings, certification with console manufacturers, general QA, localization, all these sort of things. And if you think about 99 when I started in 2020, these things have changed a bit. We are in a much better position now to self-publish. If you look at distribution, a lot of the distribution now is digital distribution. You can go on Steam. With iOS, Android, it's very easy to get in these platforms. Even the consoles have lowered the gate and make it easier for everyone to consider these platforms. So distribution is easier, right? If you look at funding, it's still very important, but there's a number of things that makes funding more accessible. There's more VCs investing, there's project funding. Certainly in the UK, there's a number of schemes you can use. There's the government grants. If you look into the cost of making games, the fact that you can make a game using Unity or Unreal, there's a barrier of entry that's been lowered as well in many ways. So still very important, but much more accessible. And my third pillar, marketing, suddenly, same as with digital distribution, digital marketing is a lot more easier now. You can, anyone with like $100 can say, let's try how to make some Facebook advertising and this sort of thing. So there's a lot of things you can do. And that led to like interesting waves into the history of games in the past 20 years, where you can see like, a lot of very big success story from things like Minecraft, where a single person can make, distribute, and market their game in many ways, and to a lot more people, and going into like the indie apocalypse phrasing that's been coined on Steam, where everybody can now launch their games, so there's a lot more crowded. How do you stand out? And we see a wave of new publishers coming in for a while now, and they do a very good, important job. But the important thing is I think it's important to look at what this brings to the ecosystem, this self-publishing capacity we have. And I think when we used to be in the old school world with a publisher sitting outside with their own marketing team doing their own thing, with a studio making their game, there were a lot of things that happened that were very bad for the audience, for the ecosystem, for the industry. If you remember a game like Enter the Matrix, which had a marketing that was very boisterous and often promising on the game, and then when you delivered, it was horrible. And that was possible back then. It's not possible anymore with things being more immediate. I believe there is an important thing for everyone to consider when they look at making their game, and it is self-publishing. And so the way I've phrased my talk is self-publishing and a state of mind, and I think this is what matters most. We work with lots of different studios of different sizes, and it's not uncommon to run into a studio that basically comes to us and say, what we really want to find a publisher. And then you ask why, and says, oh, because we don't know how to do marketing, we don't want to do marketing. It's the number one thing they say. I think this is a slightly dangerous mentality to have, and a lot of people are afraid of marketing. It's a dirty thing, it's complicated, it's complex. They don't want, either they don't understand it, they don't want to understand it. But by taking a step away from that, away from a core component of what is a commercial game. A commercial game is the sum of all the components that it's part of. And marketing is one of them. How you present the game is very much the identity of the game. You cannot present a game without understanding its nature and the way it is played, in very much so. And so when you have the ability to self-publish, there's a lot of things you need to learn. You probably need to allocate resources, budgets. You might need to hire talents you don't have. I work with studios who really wanted to self-publish, but one of their biggest challenges, like they wanted to hire a marketing person, and they were like, I have no idea how to recruit a marketing person. I know how to recruit a programmer. I know how to recruit an artist, a game designer, but I don't know how to recruit a marketing person. And these are hard things to do, but they're also things that they want to do because it's paying out long term. But what's very important is to make sure that all the points are connected with one another. And what we see now is even at the large publishers, big studios like Ubisoft, for instance, they will have big marketing team that sit outside of the studios that do like the global marketing execution. They also have marketing people sitting in the studio nowadays. I think it's very important that a studio understand all the layers that goes into making a game. And I think that even if you do work with the publisher, even if you do work with third-party agencies that help you do whatever it is you need to do, there is an important thing, is like you need to keep ownership of the product identity and being part of that sum of all things. There's a lot to gain for, even if you end up working with a publisher, to basically look at your game like if it was you publishing it, and look at opportunities, how to market the game, how to talk to the audience, how to leverage like a long tail effect on things. It's very easy to go the route of, I'm going to get a bunch of money, and they do all that stuff that's dirty because it's all about, you know, selling snake oil to people. This is not snake oil. This is your game. This is something that's going to be, your product will have your your fingerprints on it. You need to make sure that actually you stick to making that experience genuine and true to your creative vision. There's no doubt about that. And I think that's kind of like my mindset. I've seen this approach of state of mind of self-publishing have very, very positive results in people embracing it by doing everything themselves. We work a lot with show games with the Northgard. They've self-published all their games since the very beginning, and they've been very successful. But I've also seen that with people working actually with a publisher and being proactive into their marketing, being proactive with what they can do with distribution as well, with a lot of different ways they can approach the potential for the game. And I wish that kind of like, it's a bit like a proselytism. I'm kind of like preaching now. My preaching is like, do self-publish. Whether you self-publish really by doing the game, bringing the game to market yourself, or, you know, do it on a philosophical point of view and approach your game with caring about how the marketing is done, understanding how it's done and why it's done a certain way. And even if you don't bring anything of value on the table the first time around, maybe the second time around, you will, because you will have that experience. And this is something you can bring into the next game and the one after that, and so on and so forth. I think that's me.
Fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, no, lots of really good points there. We're short on time, but just one question from me. I mean, obviously, you know, the risks, the stakes are higher if you're self-publishing. There's more to be gained, but there's more to do. How does a studio know if they've got something that's special enough to go to all that extra effort on top of developing? So, everyone obviously loves their babies.
Love the question. It's a very difficult exercise. The thing is, like, if you go with a publisher, there's no guarantee that it will work better. You will just mitigate the risk by sharing the financial burden. The thing that nowadays needs to happen for almost every single project, unless you are bankrolled by a very big publisher that basically will make it happen regardless, is you need to talk about your game early. I think it's important to build your audience and your interest the earlier as you can. And by trying to create that momentum, and at the beginning it's very hard because you have like 5 people who know about your game, and then 10, 15, 100. And then by constantly showing the game, you have the ability to measure where you're at. And if you after spending like a year talking about your game, you have like 100 followers on Twitter, there's something that doesn't click. So maybe you don't talk about the game the right way, or maybe you don't know where to find the audience, but you can measure these things. If you look at, you know, launching your game on Steam, looking at your wish list. Your wish list is everybody's metric to potential success. And there's a wisdom there where if you don't have enough wish list, then something is wrong and needs to happen. And it could be more marketing by spending more money, resources if you don't have money, or it could be revising how you talk about the game. There's many games where along the way we realized that the word we were using to describe the game were wrong because people didn't get it. So you have to go back into it and iterate. This is the thing that you can do now. You can iterate on marketing, where 20 years ago, you're like, blast. And if you miss the point, then move on and go to the next game. Now they have the ability to basically have different hit points where you can keep track of how well you're doing and how well your message is hitting.
Perfect, great advice. I'm seeing a ton of thanks in the comments for you. Thank you for all that. I assume you're easy to get in touch with if someone wants to chat to you further about this.
super easy. Tom on Twitter is probably the most trustworthy way, and on our website and everything. With a great pleasure.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for your time tonight, Thomas.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, bye for now. Okay, fantastic. Okay, just a quick shout out to our donation page. We're doing really well. Oh my God, we're over £2,000. This is just amazing. Thank you very much, everyone. Hopefully you'll all win tons of prizes and be really happy and feel like you got value for money. But we've got amazing speakers. Hopefully you feel the value's great there on its own. So let us crack on. We're running a little bit over. So next up, delighted to say that we've got Rich Keith from Fourth Floor Creative. So if I just bring Rich into the stream.
Oh. Hello.
There he is. Perfect. Rich, over to you.
Hello. Thanks very much, Colin. And I really should say, well done, Colin. Amazing to have raised £2,000 already. It's been fantastic. So that's not my name down there. But thanks very much for inviting me. So my name is Rich. I run an influencer marketing agency called Fourth Floor, and we focus on games and gaming audiences. So I want to talk about the title of my talk is Stop Talking About Influencers and Start Talking to Creators. So we work with a lot of influencers. One thing to understand is we don't manage them, but I have done that. And before I did that, I ran media brands for many years for Future Publishing, which I'm sure you've all heard of, including Edge and PC Gamer and a bunch of other ones. So I've been working directly with content creators on YouTube and Twitch for 7 years. And if you count people who write about and make videos about games for media companies, then an awful lot longer than that. So in the last few years, I'm sure you will know, the idea of influencers has really taken hold. And along with that comes some positive and negative connotations. And certainly we get approached an awful lot right now by game development studios who want to work with influencers. They want them to play their games, they want them to aid discovery generally, and they want them to help them sell games, shortcut to marketing often. So it's gone from a very new model that people are trying out to a pretty mainstream one now. But along with that, there are some problems. So rushing in to work with influencers can often be, and this is obviously from someone who, this is how I make my money, but rushing in to work with influencers can be both a waste of money and a waste of time. And for me, that generally comes because people start at the wrong place and they forget that these are content creators. They're not salespeople, and that this isn't an advertising channel, and that trying to reduce it to that, to an ROI model and with direct response means that you miss the point. There are many ways to advertise, and right now on your friendly media companies or Google or Facebook, it's much cheaper than it's ever been, and there's good places for you to try out those channels. But working with creators, it is a marketing channel and one that can have some amazing rewards. But at the heart of it, this is about people, and you need to understand the creator or the creators that you're working with and how they act and how they communicate with their audience. And the way of thinking about that is to see them as not as influencers that you can get something out of, but as creative partners. And this is essentially content marketing, and it can have really positive, powerful effects, but it can also have negative effects, and there aren't that many ways of marketing and advertising that can have such a large negative effect if you get it wrong, and this really does. So again, come back to what I would urge people is to not think about influencers. Influence is the outcome, not the process. What you want to do, what people need to think about doing, is partnering with creators and start thinking about building partnerships and working with that creator or those creators to together reach their communities. And to do that, you need to be careful with who you're working with and why you're working with them. And just trying to match against game type often leads to a lot of issues. So we often find something like someone will assume that because the channel plays a lot of Minecraft or maybe Roblox, sorry, that they'll have a young audience and therefore that will work well if I want to market to a younger audience. And then they're surprised when that channel is super sweary and has adult themes. Or doing something like, even when you get the audience right by trying to match a similar game, a shooter to a shooter, but without doing the work that realizes that that audience on that particular channel is a hardcore audience and they have always rejected any other game that's come in and will be negative to, you'll start driving negative sentiment about your game if you try and work on that channel. And it's not even always about those things. Sometimes it's about the creator and the fact that they're often not the right person to be helping to partner with you to help your marketing message, and that they might have other reasons to be there. And these are people, and it might be that they'll do something that they'll do something that they know isn't quite right for their audience, because maybe they do need the money if it's a paid thing. Not always paid, but if it's paid, and because maybe their CPMs have dropped 30% and they're really finding it hard to pay the rent. So thinking about them not as influencers but about people is really important. And how they react to it, how their audience react to it, is your campaign if it's running through influencers. And so just focusing on audience match or the amount of views you're going to get, and assuming that's a shortcut to the hard work is not the way to do it. But when you do build a story with the creator that makes sense to them, makes sense to their audience, and brings everyone along, where you deliver value for the whole chain, what we tend to call the value triangle, where you're getting value for the brand, the creator, and the audience. When you do that, then it really does work and can be powerful. But it takes time. It takes time to understand, to watch the videos, watch the streams, understand what the motivations are, both the creator and their audience, to do it. And it's not always about paying for content, is the other thing. But when you're not paying for content, you again have to think about them as people, and remember that you're asking for something, and the outcome that you want is to sell more games, to get more people to understand, to hear about your game, so you can ultimately sell more games, so you can ultimately make money. So if it's not about paid, then what are you giving them? They're giving something, so you've got to put yourself in their shoes and really think about what it is that they might need as well. And again, that's about partnering, not about trying to buy a service or buy advertising through them. So yeah, that was all I had to say. I'm happy to take any questions if Colin's got any.
Fantastic, thank you very much, Rich. Let me just have a quick skim of the content, the comments. There's nothing jumping out. I mean, the obvious one is, you know, if I'm a small developer and I'm completely focused on making my game, you know, the creativity required to think about these sorts of things and the headspace. If I don't have that, what are my options?
Well, obviously you can work with an agency. But again, I would say, especially if you're a small studio, then there really is no point in getting into paid marketing, paid working with influencers route. What you want to do is build community around your game, and you want to find people that want to go with the journey with you on that. You want to send your game out. You are going to have to find someone that is watching content and understands the sorts of people that will play your sort of game. But often there's no reason to be paying for it. You want to start building community and finding people, often smaller creators, smaller streamers, who will really get into playing your game, or will be able to be on that journey with you. It's only if you've got good budget and you're trying to push to a much wider audience, you should be bringing in paid professionals. I see a lot of people wasting small budgets when they shouldn't be spending at all.
No, great advice. Cool, thank you very much. And if someone wants to get in touch with you, what's the easiest way?
LinkedIn's probably the best. Just find me on LinkedIn and message me.
Excellent, brilliant. Thank you very much for your time tonight, Rich.
Thanks very much, Colin.
Thanks very much. Cheers. Bye for now. Okay. Excuse me while I play IT person as well. What I wanted to do I just wanted to cover up for my mix-up at the beginning. Hopefully you can hear me this time, and just give a shout out to all the amazing companies that have donated prizes for tonight. So just to run through them quickly, we've got Yo-Yo, we've got Rare, we've got Pocket-Sized Hands, we've got Bossa, we've got Jed Grimes, we've got Chris Scullion, we've got Stuart McDonald from Remedy, we've got Ninja Kiwi, Krotos, Fuse, Cold Wild Games, Hyperluminal Games, Yogscast, of course, Sega, and Workshop, and Indie Champions. So thank you very, very much to all those companies. You've all been super generous and donated a whole bunch of games. I've actually lost count how much it adds up to, but it's a couple of grand's worth of games and tools and everything that's up for grabs. If you missed it earlier, we've got 14 packages of all these studios games bundled up that we'll draw at the end. Every pound that gets donated basically buys you a virtual raffle ticket. So the more you donate, the more chances you've got of getting a prize. So donate if you haven't already, if you want a shot at winning these. Don't feel you have to. Hopefully you're enjoying the stream anyway. And I know we've got visitors from all around the world. I saw people from South America and Russia and everything. So rather than people from Russia helping our NHS, maybe this inspires you to do something locally. But what everyone has contributed is going to make a big difference here. So thank you very much for that. Okay, without any further ado, what I will do is I will bring on our next speaker. Hopefully this brings him in. Hello, Aaron.
Hello.
Hey, how are you doing?
Audio working?
Yep, we can hear you loud and clear. So I will just hand over to you if that's okay.
Sure. Right, okay, so I should have my screen coming up. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to assume that audio is still working and everything's all going well. So hi everyone, my name's Aaron Langmead. I am the UK evangelist for Epic Games. And I'm going to talk to you today about what has Epic Games ever done for us, mainly because I love Monty Python, but also because we do quite a lot of stuff now, and it can be quite difficult to keep track of. So I'm going to get right into it, and we'll if you have any questions, just let me know, and we'll tackle them later on. So obviously we make Unreal Engine. Hopefully you've heard of Unreal Engine. It's a very, very cool game engine that you can use to build all sorts of games across all sorts of platforms. I don't want to spend too much time on Unreal today because you probably already know about that. And really, I want to go over the kind of the main ecosystems, but just a few extras. We've got, kind of cool stuff coming up. We've got Chaos, which is the new physics system that's coming online. We've got Hair Sim, which is looking really, really cool at the moment. So go check out that and make some good like hair swishes and flicks. We've got Niagara as well, which is the new particle VFX system. Ray tracing, which has been kind of in the engine for a while now, but is really getting kind of looking absolutely stunning, getting really good results. But apart from Unreal Engine, obviously, what has Epic Games ever done for us? So we've got a load of different things to crack on with. So I'm going to start off with community, which is one of the big things that we do. We try to support the community in a number of ways. So we have our YouTube channel where we have lots of curated content, tutorials, promotions, sizzle reels, just trying to promote content that's being produced in the engine. We have a live stream which we have run every week, I think, by Victor. I was on it one week talking about version control, If you are interested in setting up your own Perforce stream, regardless of whether that's in Unreal or in kind of any other engine, you should check it out, because we go over setting all of that stuff up. We have our meetups as well, where they happen all over the world. So if you're interested in kind of meeting some other like-minded people, obviously not right now, but hopefully kind of we'll get to a situation where we can go back to doing physical meetups at some point soon. But those happen all over the world. We run a Mega Jam as well, which is a really awesome game jam where you can win these absolutely amazing prizes. This was last year, I think, where they were sort of custom built PC as one of the prizes you could get. Then we also have the Unreal Marketplace as well. So there's lots of curated content on there, which you can also kind of build your own content and put it onto the Marketplace store. We release free content, so we partner with the people who are building content for the Marketplace, and we work with them to give some of the content that they're building away for free for a month. And then we have the kind of the permanent collection that we have in there as well. So kind of we'll take content that really stands out and is really useful, and we'll just make that permanently free for everyone. And then finally, we have all of our kind of social media channels that we use as well, and our blog as well. Evangelism, so that's kind of the stuff that I do. This is a picture of cartoon of Chris Murphy, and I think almost perfectly sums up the kind of stuff that we do. But basically, our key goals are to teach, to present, to support, promote, and develop. So we want to be your person at Epic. So if you need to get in contact with us, or you want to talk to us about a particular area of Epic, kind of we're there and we're readily available to be able to talk to you and help you out. So this is the kind of the European team. If you want to get in contact with any of us, you're more than welcome to. But we also have kind of different people all over the world who can help out with that stuff. One of the best ways to get in contact with us, and a lot of the information that I'm going over is actually on this website as well. It's Unreal Engine, and then if you go to Unreal Indies, it's a massive, kind of really useful, concise repository of all of the stuff that you need to know about as an indie developer, along with an email address for you to be able to get in contact with us. So you can go onto our page here and get in contact. Then we have our events. So obviously, again, slight caveat here, we haven't been able to run a lot of these this year due to circumstances. But next year, hopefully, we will be able to run these events, and I want to make sure that you're aware of them when we do. So obviously, we have GDC. Almost all of our events, we spend most of our time trying to promote other developers' games. So if you ever go to any of our booths, you'll see not a whole lot of Epic stuff, but a whole lot of kind of small stands with developer games on them, just to give them the opportunity to promote us for free. Obviously, we try and look for that stuff in the community. So if you're interested in being part of that, then get actively involved in the community, post stuff on the forums, post stuff kind of on Twitter using our Unreal Engine, and kind of talk to us about it so that we're aware of you and we can come and support you. Then we have Unreal Fest, which is again normally a yearly event where we have a ton of tracks, a ton of speakers, and we do all Unreal content that's kind of really interesting and engaging and really useful. Then we have Unreal Presents. And this runs a load of different events, and we basically do a showcase of select games usually in the region where we're doing it, but it often extends out beyond that as well. So we've run it at Nordic before, Gamescom, and Develop. So again, if you're interested in in participating in that, then let us know. Make sure that kind of we know that your game is in development and being worked on and all being done like that. So next up we have support. Obviously we have our kind of main forum where you can go and chat with the community and talk to them and get help there. We also have a thing called Answer Hub, where you can kind of post a question and then you'll have some Unreal devs and some some community members who will try and help out with that as much as possible. Then we have our docs page. If you've tried to use our docs page, kind of long ago in the past, and you found it a little bit wanting, I urge you to go back and have another look at it. We've had some absolutely amazing docs writers join Epic recently, and they've done some absolutely amazing work. So our documentation pages are looking a lot more filled out, a lot better, a lot more detailed. So definitely go and check that out. Again, if you've been spurned by it in the past and you're willing to give it a second chance. Then we also have our learning resources as well, which is learn.unrealengine.com. Just realized that there's a little bar that's blocking out some of that stuff. So this is where we've got, kind of a proper learning portal where you can go through proper, again, heavily curated courses on particular areas of development in the engine. So definitely go and check that out. If you're new to the engine and you want to learn some stuff that's, kind of cross-discipline, so not just games, but also, kind of ArcViz and all the cool up-and-coming, kind of enterprise areas that are starting to realize that games is an awesome thing to be part of. And then it also works both ways as well. So if you are, kind of want to be part of the community and want to help out, and you do find a bug, you can actually submit that bug to us using the link just in the middle there. And you can get that reported, and hopefully we can get that fixed as soon as possible. Or if you're feeling really clever, which I'm definitely not clever enough to do this, but you can actually fix the bug yourself and then submit a pull request, which the engine team will review and then can take on. So that then gets rolled into the engine and gets, kind of part of the full engine update. If you have a look at the Unreal Engine release notes, you'll be able to see at the start, there's a ton of people who get a special thank you for asking, for helping out with, kind of with finding bugs and adding little fixes here and there and just generally contributing to the engine. Then Quixel, we've had, kind of acquired recently, who's kind of joined the team. With them, we've helped make the Quixel library completely free for anyone using Unreal. And I'm just realizing the time here, so I'm gonna try and speed up a little bit. We also have the Epic Games Store as well, so you can get your game out onto the store as well. We have a much better split with 1288% rather than 3070. If you're using the engine, that does also include the royalty that you would do for that particular platform as well. And if you're interested in doing that, there's a special form that you can fill in, which is under epicgames.com/store-en-us/about. And at the bottom of there, you can go and apply to have your game put on the store. Then I'll very, very briefly touch on the publishing arm that's kind of recently started, where we've partnered with these absolutely incredible developers. We've had a lot of people ask about publishing. We're not quite ready to start, kind of taking on requests just yet. But rest assured, as soon as we, kind of are in that position, we'll let people know. Then we have our Epic Online Services as well, which is intended to be a fully featured platform to allow for analytics, matchmaking, lobbies, basically any online element, kind of that you can think of that's not the, the actual server hosting. It's, it's all of that kind of featured into one. So we've got all of these different features that are coming up soon, and these are platform agnostic as well. So if you are a Unity developer or a Langmead developer or whatever, this is all stuff that you can still use and also use, kind of for free. Then we have our Epic Mega Grants, so $100 million that we are giving away slowly over several years. We've already done this for a load of different people. So we gave about 1.4 million, I think, to the Blender Foundation, who are doing absolutely incredible work. I've been learning Blender myself, and it's absolutely awesome. and a few other games and developers, and it's basically free money that you can apply. Again, you can go to unrealengine.com/en-us/megagrants. If you're interested in applying for that, I highly recommend you add video and content and stuff like that, so that we can see the awesome thing that you're building, and hopefully give you some money for it. Then we have licensing. And at the moment, there's a kind of standard EULA, which everyone can do, which is obviously 5% gross royalty after the first $3,000. And that gets you access to the engine and the engine source code, so you can make whatever edits you like. Then if that doesn't work for you, there's also the custom licensing option as well, which does involve an upfront cost, but again, has these extra features that you can get access to. If you're interested in custom licensing, again, we've got another form that you can go through and fill out for unrealengine.com/en-us/custom licensing. And that's me done. Whew.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Aaron. There's been a couple of questions about cross-platform stuff, Linux, Mac, that I can bet you're not going to be able to answer. So instead, I want to ask you, is there any sort of size of studio that you would have a relationship with? You don't have to be a big studio to reach out to you and start working with Epic, do you?
No, not at all. So we deal with absolutely anyone who's working in the engine or wants to work in the engine. We'll work with universities who want support with with a guest lecturer or whatever. If you're a student team who's just working on a game, we don't care. That's awesome. You contact us either way. If you're a massive studio with hundreds of people, then again you can contact us. We're interested in games. We want to see what you're working on and help out if we can. And it's really horrible when you find out that there was something that we could have done, but when the developer didn't reach out because they didn't know that we were there to offer that support. There's a lot of the time where they suffer in silence, and they don't need to. So they should contact us and let us try to help.
Perfect. Remind me that email address again.
So it was Indies. Oh God, you've put me on the spot now. See if we can find it. It's unrealengine.com.
Indies@unrealengine.com. Perfect. And then the final question, probably the most important one of the night so far, is: are you bringing back Jazz Jackrabbit?
I have no idea. I think that's probably one for Tim.
I'm taking as a yes. We've heard it here first. Brilliant. Aaron, thank you so much for staying up so late to do this. It's been super useful. I see a ton of thanks and applause and everything coming through in the comments. So thank you very much.
Awesome.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Fantastic. Okay, moving swiftly on. We are very fortunate to have Mr. Phil Scott from NVIDIA. Hey, Phil, how you doing?
Hi, Cole, you all right?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. I will just put your slides up and hand over to you.
Right. So, Colin told us I've got about 10 minutes, which normally is what it takes us to get through Hello. So I'm going to be going at some pace here. So what I'm going to talk about is remote working. There's a reason, and I've got a bit of practice at this, but I don't want to present this as something that's a holy grail of remote working. We're all in this situation together, but there are a couple of guiding principles in this, which is one is have good staff that you can trust, and this will play out in the long term, but also managers managing staff properly is actually going to be a big thing as well. And there's certain tricks to that. So I'll give you a bit of background. But first, I'll call out that people do amazing things whilst working remotely. So whilst we've been playing games, I completed Call of Duty, our chief scientist designed a ventilator that's now in the FDC approval process that can basically be built by just about anybody. So it's like that's just to frame things that people do amazing things in times of need. So look at what we're doing now. So this is where I work, NVIDIA. I've worked here for quite some time. There's only one slight problem, which is where I work is 5,147 miles away to be precise, and that's each way, which isn't exactly commutable. As much as I'm not sure people would like us to, but it necessitated something. That necessity is working from home, and I've been working remote for the last 19 years at NVIDIA, and thanks to having a very forward-thinking employer that understood that the digital era was on us, and we were set up for people working from home. And right now, nearly our entire company is working from home, and that includes just about everybody except a few people in Asia. Now I get to live in a great place, have a great standard of life, and I'm pretty close to Scotland, which I'm sure a few of you guys will appreciate. But to put it on the map, our little island here is still quite a way away from California. So what complicates things even more is I manage the European team. And the European team includes some of us in the UK. We've got Finland, Poland, Russia, and the new addition to Europe is Japan. Yes, Japan is in Europe. You heard it here first. They're not going to be in the Eurovision, but there's time yet. Australia made it last time, so you never know. But managing staff remotely is one of the things I've been doing for quite some time, and this is some of the stuff that I've learned whilst doing that. Now, the first thing to do, it's all about communication. It's all about getting stuff, getting people talking to each other. And one of the things that we brought in on my team, and this is backed up with research that I happened to get talking to a Stanford professor about on one of many commutes, was it's this thing about saying good morning. Every day, everybody says good morning. And you can vary it a bit. You can say hola beeps or happy Friday, keep it casual. But we do this on Messenger. We don't have a call to say hello. But what we do is we say this on Messenger. So we can signal sort of like, okay, I'm ready to work. I'm here. Everything's okay. But it focuses everybody together and it uplifts everybody with that friendliness. And there's a general increase in output just because everybody's like, yeah, we're in this together. It focuses teamwork, but also as a manager, and this talk is from the point of view of both manager and people being managed, and I'm kind of both in that respect, is, read the replies that people give you, because if something's not right, you're going to say it in the way that they say hello. But it's a well-researched topic, and that hello thing is actually really important. So, get in the habit of doing that. Don't just assume you're alone in a little island because you're working remote. My pet hate meetings. I hate meetings. I really do. They're like the kill switch of productivity. Many first-timers that do remote work and over meeting, they just do too many meetings. They have meetings of meetings, and they don't just have meetings for the sake of it. This whole thing about doing meetings for the sake of it because it's in the calendar. If you've got nothing to say, don't do it. Just don't do it. Cancel the meeting, get on with something else. And if you do have a meeting, focus the meeting on what needs to be discussed. And what's critical is anybody that's in that meeting should participate. Right? Don't have guys sat in the corner saying nothing. Focus on if you're here, why are you here? And what value do you bring to this meeting? And that might sound quite draconian, but actually people get tired to death of doing meetings for meetings' sake. So one of the other things when you're working remote, I'm sure everybody's had this now, but it's this. It's the clackety-clack of mechanical keyboards in the background when everybody thinks that nobody's looking. I hate to point this out, but everybody can hear it. So we do effectively closed laptop meetings, no typing meetings. The only person that can type is the person taking the notes, and they take it on a very quiet keyboard. And what comes from that is immediately after that meeting, those notes go out. So everybody understands what's being done. One of the other things is laptops aren't very good at audio. it's important that the managers understand that. Get people a good desk mic, a good set of headphones. And we released RTX Voice very recently. I think it was last week. And that cancels out lots and lots and lots of background noise. So, try to get people getting good audio. It really helps with getting people sort of into the meetings. Communication in general, right? With the advent of things like Slack and Telegram and all these other things, right? We use all sorts of different chat things for different reasons. But you can't assume somebody's reading a channel. And the reason you can't assume people are reading a channel is because channels get really noisy very quickly if you have more than a handful of people on them. We have some channels in NVIDIA that have 2, 3, 4, 5,000 people on them. And a lot of the time stuff doesn't get read. It gets over-posted. You get overlapping complications. You get overlapping comments. People don't branch things. People don't see branches. But you just get skimmed. And if threads get missed, communication breaks. If you've got something to say to certain people, DM them or DM clusters of people. You can do that with most things. But also it's important that you have generic channels for doing things like cat pictures or Star Wars pictures or whatever kind of thing that you want to do. But have that sort of like chitty chat channels as well that people have. And it might sound obvious, but a lot of people don't do it. But the other thing is that age-old thing of email. Emails are kind of important, and we thrive on both that. Emails are like the permanent record. It's a single topic focus. It's very actionable. Don't forget about it. If you want to bring in groups of people that wouldn't necessarily be joining groups, whereas Messenger is very transient. Management of things, you can't micromanage people remotely. It's impossible to micromanage people remotely. You've got to trust your staff. And what comes with that is the staff will get very invested in what you're talking about. But also those that are struggling, you need to identify them. And it will be obvious who's struggling. And you'll be able to identify the ones that are actually slacking as well, because some people will think that they'll be able to goof off a bit. But the end game is the same if people are slacking, right? You've got to do the same as you would do as if they're in the office. And there's an ultimate end game if people continue to slack. You will make mistakes along the way. Everybody does it. But working remotely, you've got to allow people to find a certain rhythm and find that place of work and that way of working, because everybody's a little bit unique. And you'll find that some people aren't on email 24/7, and they shouldn't be. People should have solid breaks between everything. But the one thing that you've got to accept, and you've got to accept it very early as a manager, is there is no average day, right? Everybody has a different way of framing the day. Everybody works differently. Some people work in bursts. Some people switch off email on a morning and only respond to email on an afternoon, and they do other stuff in the morning, productive stuff and reporting in the afternoon. But the other thing is working remote. This idea of crunch, forget it. Get on top of your projects. Crunch needs to go away, and it's a good time to start getting rid of it. But one thing I've also found is random calling people from time to time on the team. Just do a sort of casual one-to-one. That telephone call goes a long way. Play games even in office hours. It's not like anybody's got a commute at the moment. But one of the funniest things, and I had to explain this to Colin, was what Poets Day is. It's really simple. It's piss off early tomorrow's Saturday. So on a Friday afternoon, people can leave whenever they want. Get your work done. That's it. Don't start something new until Monday. And you'd be amazed how people embrace that idea but don't take the mick. So we're very fond of that. It takes one person on the team to say, right, that's it. I'm having a Poets Day. That's fine. You've worked hard all week. Don't sit there till 5 o'clock on a Friday night. And we don't do meetings on a Friday afternoon or a Friday night for that purpose. Measurement, send out top stuff, right? On a Monday, 3-5 things, generally vague, strategic-y stuff. Send those out. The things that you want to achieve, peers and managers. Strategic, kind of important. Not an item-by-item to-do list. That's a to-do list, not a top stuff thing. But everybody uses the same alias. Everybody sends it to the same group of people, and it's basically sharing is caring. But what's also very achievable is a done list. So on a Friday, this is more the satisfying and fulfilled stuff, and it's like getting that little Xbox achievement, when you've just won up something. And those achievements, it's like, this is the stuff that I got done this week. It's not a giant wall of work that you've got to do. It's stuff that you've actually done. And those two things together work really well together. But after the pandemic, right? So I've been working remote for a long time. There's some benefits that are going to come out of this. So, a lot of people say that they've been struggling to hire great people. And I would hypothesize that the candidate pool of even senior people is generally gated by location, mortgages, families, commitments, that kind of thing, right? People have got kids in school, people have got partners that are in work, or, whatever person's life situation is as they become more senior, they typically have took on more of life. So many experienced people are going to be remotely upwardly mobile. And what I mean by that is people have experienced working remotely. A lot of people like it. And that enforcing people to return to the office may well cost you staff. And it may cost you your best staff who may want to remotely work for somebody else. So people are going to have to get their heads around the idea of, remote working might be something that's a couple of days a week for people. And what's the new normal going to be? Is it going to be like an oil rig, right, where you've got a couple of weeks on and a couple of weeks off, right? Or is it that you go into the office 1 day a week and you work remote 4 days a week? What is important, doesn't matter what the model is, what is important is, like my team, when we get together, when I go across to California, we focus the face time, right? We focus on the time together and we add value to that time, and we do the things that you can only do together, and we save that other work for when we're apart, right? It kind of sounds common sense, right? But it's a very it's a very productive time that when you do that time together, you've got to do the things that are important to be done together. It's sort of compartmentalizing that. So 2020, right? It's 2020's been a strange year, and we'll have 2020 hindsight on this. But the global pandemic is probably going to change our industry forever. And to be honest, a lot of people weren't ready. But we're a digital business. We can be ready. We will be ready. And if you're not ready, you need to be. And it's going to come from practice. You're getting that right now. It's going to come from the great people that you employ, and it's going to come from the trust that you put in them. And I think I've belted through that pretty quickly, so I'll hand that back to Cole.
Yeah, that was really interesting. Yeah, I think NVIDIA's at the cutting edge of remote working, and I know you've been doing this for quite some time. So I think we'll all be coming to you for advice on this in the future.
Yeah.
One trivial question: when you're say good morning to everyone, but everyone's in time zones, what time? Who's good morning?
We typically do it around so for instance, like the girl that works for me in Russia. She'll say good morning probably 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, our time in the UK. She'll have probably had to deal with Moscow traffic, so she'll probably get in the office about 10 in the morning, and that's when she'll say good morning.
So when each person comes in.
Yeah, it's typically when each person comes in. That new European nation, Japan. That one's a slightly different case, but he also works really weird hours. So, we tend to do some strange hours anyway, because we're trying to continually be in sync with different times of day. So I'll have, like, early in the morning, I'll actually have some conversation with California, who are like at midnight their time. So we literally are going 24/7. Just we do it kind of in piecewise shifts kind of thing. So, but we all say good morning to each other, and it's something we've done for probably the last 4 or 5 years, and it really just gels people together. It's a weird thing, and I raised it to this Stanford professor, and he says unwittingly you stumbled on something that people have been researching for years. So, kind of weird thing. It was just something I thought would be fun to do, and it works a treat.
Yeah, no, sounds like good advice. Brilliant. Thank you very much for your time.
Very welcome.
Tonight,
All right, thanks, Cole.
Thank you so much. Cheers. Bye for now.
Cheers, guys.
Great. I see lots of lovely thanks and compliments in the comments to Phil. So thank you again for Phil for coming on. We are still fundraising. Basically, what we'll do is after our next speaker, I'll tally up the raffle tickets. So we will have our final speaker, but once Jess starts talking, any contributions from that point won't count towards the raffle, because I've got a bit of black magic to do to figure out the numbers to assign to everyone's raffle tickets. So if you still want to donate, you've got about another 10 minutes. And in that 10 minutes, you will also be educated and entertained. And that's because our next speaker is the lovely Mr. Harry Hamer from London Venture Partners. Hello, Harry.
Hey, Colin. I think you've oversold me there a bit. Entertainment is a bit of a long shot, but yeah, we're really on the night shift now. So even though what I might be saying is boring, I've tried to make it quite useful. So that's business one really.
I will leave you to it. I'll bring up your slides.
Great, thank you. So hey everyone. Yeah, so it's really business 101. You get something boring and you sell it. In this case, for a good cause. I'll just put this onto presentation, so you should hopefully all see that. So yeah, I come from LVP. I'm an analyst there. We are VC investors. We're pretty unique amongst the venture capital community. We invest only in gaming. And so that gives us a perspective on the industry that I think is unparalleled amongst others. And it allows us an insight that, again, is different to other investors. Some of you may know us, some of you may not know us. So I'll do a brief spiel, which is required under the circumstances, and then I'll get on to the more interesting, I say in quotation marks, stuff, and try and keep it short so that Colin doesn't have an alarm blaring out. So agenda, just a bit of background on us, what we've seen with coronavirus and its impact on gaming, a little perspective on not necessarily how VCs evaluate companies and investments, but at least how we see that. And you can draw parallels and extrapolate from that as you wish. And then there's a little Easter egg slide for if you're looking to raise seed. I guess, yeah, the big question is why found a company? And being at LVP, you're able to see how many amazing companies are able to be born out of startups. And so for us, we invest at the seed stage, and we invest solely in games. We're founded by games entrepreneurs and gamers alike, and from that investment into, again, gaming only companies, we found a lot of positives from that, not only in providing that funding gap in the valley of death for startups. You've got an idea, you don't necessarily know how to put it in practice, you need to build a team, you need to build the product, and from a long 10-year history, we've seen that go all the way through the cycle. So yeah, I mean, we've now been doing this. We've invested in 40+ companies, and the joy that we feel actually is having our own companies meet each other, portfolio synergies that can happen, and then also, again, lessons that we've learned from either previous startups we've been involved with or working with our own portfolio companies and helping teach new startups and avoiding pitfalls. So yeah, this is just to show that the monolith has faces, and as with all companies, it's people driven. It's the connections that you have and the people that you know. So yeah, here we all are. So backgrounds vary from EA, David Lau-Key, he was founder of Criterion, so more on the kind of engine software side. Ari was at Playfish. I myself, I've got a background in finance and investment. I started from VC, but have investing into games for the past 2-ish years. So we've all had a lot of experience on the game side. Again, more spiel about the exposure that we've had to previous gaming companies, and hopefully enough to dispel imposter syndrome on our part, that again, we think we know what we're doing. So just again, overview of how a VC works really. So we source over 1,000 fundable opportunities. We classify that as gaming companies who are at the seed stage or pre-seed. There's no really too early for us, so we come in first money in really, and we see a lot of opportunities. So that might mean that you might have reached out to VCs previously, and they have either not replied or given very short emails, usually as a function of them being cold bastards. Sometimes that is part and parcel of it, but a lot of the time it's just it's timing, and the amount of time they have allocated. They've got usually a portfolio, they're looking at other deals, they're looking at fundraising themselves, and if you hit a VC when they're raising their own fund, then they'll be far more sympathetic to your plight if you're looking to raise money yourself. Where we usually come in, again, seed, it's 500k to 2.5 million check sizes. And so from that, because it's real money, we have investors ourselves, we need to evaluate the opportunities. So usually that will come in the form of a couple of calls. We'll dive deep into how you're building the company. I realise, again, we're short of time, so I'll try and loop back on that later on in the presentation. But we invest, then we manage the companies, because that's the end game, and we have 21 active investments now across all gaming, whether that be on the platform and technology side, on mobile or PC console. So recent deals, so invested into a couple of companies recently, and actually one company during the coronavirus. So we made out the offer, and again, unlike other VCs, we stuck by our word, not to throw shade at others, but we invested into, say, Robin Games. It's a fantastic opportunity with Jill Wilson. She was employee number 3, I think, at Jam City, which is now, again, a unicorn. And she just had this compelling vision for lifestyle, this new genre of lifestyle fantasy gaming, and rethinking how games are actually put together. I mean, just stuff such as guilds. Why is it that when you get to level 5 and you're encouraged to go into a guild and you get I don't know, an add-on, you get a perk? Why is that the case? It's driven by competition. What about, again, other motivations, and particularly testosterone-fueled motivations that are prevalent within a lot of games that have got female-skewed audiences? So that's what excites us there. Vila, island-based. They have a fantastic team that they're looking to retain the competition and community of PvP, whilst at the same time removing that toxicity and again, enabling these unique interactions amongst people on a social level. And we haven't actually invested into Scotland yet, so sorry, Colin. We're making our way there. So yeah, market status for us. Yeah, gaming engagement up. Hey. One of the few industries to, I say benefit, but do well out of the current pandemic. Sensor Tower, I think, had figures of 16% net revenue increase on April versus March, and that's similar to other figures that we're seeing across our portfolio. At the same time, that might be a short-term boost. We're seeing on the multiplayer side that they're getting this increased engagement, but on single player, it's less distinct, as well as revenue not necessarily keeping up to the same extent. So there have been some cases where revenue hasn't tallied up with the increase in daily active users. And as that goes on, if there's a deeper recession, It might be that in-app purchases are viewed as luxury goods, and therefore overall revenue, even though people are inside gaming more, that they are actually going to decrease their spend. So for now, it's okay, but in the future, that's potentially something to be wary of, as well as ad spend. Again, I could go on for hours on this, but for time, I'll skip forward. So yeah, amazing. But as the money man here, I'm going to say think about the capital, not just Karl Marx's capital. We're talking about actual money that is going towards amazing ideas, and when that money gets taken away, what do you do? So what we've seen across the funding landscape, we invest at the seed stage, and there are a lot of active gaming seed investors. Once you scale a company, you're going to require larger pockets coming from more generalized tech investors, from private equity, maybe from strategics. But across the landscape, we're seeing purses being buttoned up and cash being reduced. And so this is culminating in reduced valuations that VCs are holding back from investing, that they're wanting COVID discounts, and overall the business model of many companies are being tested, and therefore that discount across the different verticals will spread to gaming, and then the VCs who are looking for money, they're going to have that less readily available. They raise from pension funds, they raise from asset managers, and they've been hit in the public markets, and that will spread down into the private markets because they don't want to put money into an illiquid fund. Again, apologies if I'm going quite quickly here, but I'm trying to get through the real meat of the presentation. All of this culminates in less money going around the system, although in gaming you shelter more than most. How does this affect VCs and how they view investments? So we are recommending that our companies have 18 months runway, if not more. There will be waves, not only of corona cases, but also within the economy, unemployment and capital shortages. So we're saying button down for the long haul, where we previously recommend trying to maximize the valuation uplift by doing it in tranches and try and minimize dilution for you giving away shares. We now say raise as much as you can, if you can, just so that we can get out beyond the new normal, which is the coronavirus. And this also helps with VCs who are coming in later, that they're saying, oh, you're prudent, and you're able to get a product out in the market. And I think that tallies or dovetails at least with also a view to getting, if you've got a game or a product out, getting some early metrics, raising on stats, not hope, which we'd previously recommend raising on hope to minimize that dilution. Now people are wanting proper facts. So and then how does that affect, if you've got a company now or you're a developer and think about a game? I'd say it's harder to raise, the bar is higher, but at the same time, it doesn't stop people from investing. We're still investing in the current climate. It might be at a reduced scale. People are saying business as usual, I think, are lying or being disingenuous. And we're on the lookout for, again, those people who recognize that. And there are some positives. Hiring's a bit easier. At the same time, it's the coronavirus, and there's going to be less capital available, and therefore you're not going to, if you hire a lot of people, then that will increase burn, and that will reduce your runway. So quick overview. I'll allow you to pause back on this if you want to properly look over it, but because we're investing equity, we will look at the team predominantly as to how we invest. Of course, when you're approaching a VC or talking with a VC, it's prudent to know what they invest into, what stage, etc. But then also, if you're getting VC money, that we're looking to exit maybe a couple $100 million valuation in order to return our fund, because we have a lot of failures, and therefore our winners need to return the failures and the losses that arise from that. So therefore, it might be that you have a fantastic game, but it's not going to be the breakout hit that we're requiring. It's not differentiated enough. It's not going to be the next Supercell. I know it's cliche, but that's really how seed stage investors, again, at least we think about that. At the same time, we invest into teams who can figure those things out. You don't have to have the final product all thought through. If anything, we're not product investors. That's what publishers do. We invest and we assume that your first game will fail, and we will help you through that. As long as we're able to work through your thesis and how you will be able to effectively pivot if that does occur, then when we're ready to jump in. So yeah, some common issues. Lifestyle business I touched upon, that if it's going to be maybe a couple million revenue game, then it's fantastic opportunity for you. Just don't get venture investors. There might be other investors that might jump on that, but as professional investors, this is all that we do, and we need to return at least 3x to our investors. We need a larger opportunity than the next Unity, the next Unreal. Yeah, differentiation. You can have some fantastic games, but they either need to define a genre, or they need to be doing something significantly different. They need to identify opportunities, problems that are existing within the market. Public pitch, touched on exit aversion. We put money in, and so at some point we're expecting to get that back, because the counterfactual will be, if you get an investor like this, then kudos, that we invest in your company for life, for the long run, and but at some point we need to return that money to our investors, so there will be an exit of some form, secondaries, IPO, acquisition. And then scaling as well, which is another aspect of how you think about the business expanding. What are the costs associated? We've had problems before in the past where we've invested into hardware, where you have supply chain issues, inventory costs. You have variable costs that tally up with revenue, and that severely diminishes the profit margin you can get from that. Again, boring financial talk, sorry. But that is, again, how we think about it, and therefore, how are you going to ensure that your company expands up to £1 billion whilst retaining nice profit margins, being sustainable in the future, and reducing a cost base. So bonus slide, in the same way we evaluate you should really look at us and think about who you're potentially partnering with. And you can get any old dumb money, but I think where we like to differentiate ourselves is the value that we can add with the context that we have. We have founders calls where we bring in people from Google, someone from EA looking at project management, where we really try and help out the companies dive into how you're going to operate that at scale, and talk through any pain points that you have, because a lot of the problems and the pain and also the joy of a startup is going through the highs and lows of it. And if you pick the right investor, then that can be a lot easier. So yeah, that's it. I've severely run over, apologies. And there is an Easter egg slide of how to raise seed if you want to, again, pause that. I'll pass it back over to Colin, I think.
Awesome. Hey. That was brilliant. Thank you very much. Yeah, super useful. Yeah, we're tight on time for questions. You answered some of the questions that came up and went along, so that's perfect. Thank you so much for staying up so late.
No, thank you, Colin.
And we will
donate if you.
We will make sure we find an investment for you in Scotland. You need to come up here and do business with people up here.
Yes. No. Again, when the restrictions are lifted, I'll be up there.
Perfect. Look forward to it. Nice one. Thanks again. Cheers. Bye for now. Okay, fantastic. All right, we are on to our final speaker of the night, and I'm delighted to say that this is Jess Hyder, technical designer at Rare. Jess will explain, but this is the one that's not live, so let me just bring up her video, and I will leave you.
Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in, and thank you to Colin, the speakers, and all of the team who've worked on pulling this fantastic event together. So a quick little introduction on my end. My name's Jess Hyder, and I'm a technical designer at Rare, working on our upcoming title Everwild, which we announced at XO19. Welcome to my kind of sunny living room. No, I'm not in another time zone from you. I'm down near Twycross, but I am pre-recorded. Unfortunately, I had a suspected bout of the virus, and although I'm recovering well, I still have the occasional bad day, and you can guarantee if I tried to do this live, it would have been then. But today, I wanted to share with you something that I felt would be really relevant given everything that's going on right now. Something that I've only really learned about in the last couple of years since joining Rare, and had been a missing part from my game development toolkit. I want to talk a wee bit about self-kindness. I think the one thing that we can all agree on as game developers is we want to make the best games we possibly can. We want to immerse and inspire our players, and so end up pouring a lot of heart into everything we create. We want to do the best that we can, right? And that means we're always learning. We're looking for new ideas or new ways to think. We're delving into the unknown, exploring the uncharted, finding out what's next. We're an industry of creativity and innovation, always looking to grow beyond where we currently are. And speaking of growing, you've probably heard of this all wrapped up into the term of having a growth mindset. So in a growth mindset, people believe that their most basic abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. Brains and talent are just the starting point. And this view creates a love of learning and a resilience that is essential for great accomplishment. So growth mindset is pretty cool. I mean, throughout, we're not restricted or gated by the talent we were born with. We can achieve anything we want if we put in the effort and dedication. And it's something that, as part of Microsoft, is quite core to our culture. So Satya Nadella, our CEO, has always pushed for us to become learn-it-alls rather than know-it-alls. And as a Microsoft employee, Rare being part of the Xbox Game Studios family, I can say that's filtered down. From the messaging from our leadership team to how we conduct our internal reviews and feedback, it's all centered around a growth mindset, about being constructive and solution-orientated and driving ourselves forward. But whilst we all strive for this, I think there's a part which we don't talk about commonly, and that's growing is hard. If you're growing, it means you're having to step outside your comfort zone. You're leaving behind the safety of tried and tested methods you've been using for who knows how long. It often leaves you in a vulnerable position, open to critique, in the spotlight, or searching for unknown answers. So a couple of months ago, pre all of this happening, I was working on an assignment that involved writing a new type of content for me and then balancing it between the expectations of 3 very different stakeholders and being held to director level standards and what I needed to produce. It was engaging and frustrating, tough yet satisfying, because although it took some time, at the end of it all, I had something that captured what we needed it to. And I remember after I'd completed it, myself and the creative director were sitting outside, effectively holding like an impromptu retro, and we were talking about how I found the work and the process. And I was honest. I found it tough, but I also felt like I'd grown a ton in quite a short period of time, and I felt like I coped with that pressure and stress well, mainly because I was in a place where I could. For that period, the rest of my life had been pretty stable, and that had made this bit of work so much more manageable. And it was then my creative director said to me, "You don't always have to be growing. You can be maintaining." And that really struck me. I'd never considered giving anything but 100% all of the time. I thought to be successful, I always needed to be growing. But like with everything, I'm discovering there's a balance. We all go through good periods and bad periods. For better or for worse, that's life, which also seems to have an uncanny ability of sending you all of the bad things at once for you to deal with. And I think for a lot of us, through those bad periods, we try and carry on as normal. Even if we're running at full capacity, we're now sprinting to carry those extra worries or responsibilities as well. And then we're tough on ourselves for not being able to keep up with what we normally can do, which adds more pressure to what we're carrying, which slows us down more. And this downward, unsustainable spiral all too often ends with some nasty fallouts. Anxiety, exhaustion, burnouts, to name a few. But when you're in that place, it's hard to see the way out. If you're like me, you are incredibly stubborn to the point of ignoring what's actually happening. You're so focused on trying to maintain the same standard that you've always worked to, always trying to push yourself more. You aren't even aware of what you're losing along the way. For me, it was both my physical and mental health. I collapsed from exhaustion at home. I had a paramedic out until my family arrived, who I then lived with for 2 weeks because I wasn't able to be left on my own. And after I physically recovered, it wasn't long until I left where I was and moved back home to Scotland because I was mentally numb. It took me 4 months until I felt like myself again and for my love of making games to return. And I promised myself then to never let myself get into that state again. But, if I'm honest, at that time, I had no idea how not to, how to avoid falling into the same habits as before and avoid that downward spiral. And then I joined Rare. One of the many things I love about Rare is you'll often hear the phrase or variants of it that it's okay not to be okay. It's a reminder to each other and to ourselves to show ourselves some kindness, not by admitting that we can't cope, but by giving ourselves the space to take the steps we need so we can. And invariably what this does is open up a natural dialogue with those around us. We don't have to hide how we're actually feeling. So this culture has formed from a number of different initiatives aimed at supporting and improving employee well-being at Rare, from clinical support to yoga classes, from our fabulous events team to our spirit champions, who are fellow developers but volunteer to be a confidential listening ear if we need one, and more. And together, this has removed much of the stigma around mental health in our workplace. It means I can have an open and honest conversation about how I'm doing with anyone, from my peers to my studio head, which I've actually done. And what this creates is this just amazing, incredible support network. But more than that, it's helped remove the stigma of myself. It's very easy to punish yourself for not being good enough. It's a lot harder to give yourself a chance. But I want to say you are worth that chance. It's only been in the last 6 months that I found the courage to admit to myself when I'm not right, and then give myself some time to figure out why and how I can approach resolving it, rather than just ignoring it or beating myself up when I'm not able to hit the same standards as usual. And it means I get back to myself far quicker. I'm learning when I can push myself to grow, or to be happy in maintaining where I'm at, knowing that I'll grow again when I'm ready. Now here I wish I could whip out a slide which had all the answers for how to practice self-kindness, but it's one of those things that's different for everybody. For you, self-kindness might revolve around not comparing yourself to others, and instead enjoying your journey at your own pace. It might be learning to make peace with things that didn't go the way you wanted to in the past, or believing that even if you aren't where you want to be right now, one day you will get there. So my best advice to you for how you can show yourself some kindness is to listen to what you're saying to yourself. If you were able to view someone else going through the same tough times you were, you'd step in and try to help them. So don't forget to show that same compassion and empathy to yourself. Don't be your own worst enemy. Be your best encourager, comforter, and supporter. You are you are awesome, and you deserve to be happy. So remember to be kind to yourself. And then maybe one day, when you're ready and able to, please share that kindness with others. Now, as I'm pre-recorded, I can't take questions, but I am going to drop some links to resources I found helpful in my journey in the chat. Also, if you have any queries, thoughts, interpretive dance that you want to share, anything you want to chat about, my DMs on Twitter are always open. You can grab me at Jess Hyder, it's just my name. So thank you, everyone, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.
Wow, an amazing talk. Thank you so much, Jess. And I see from the comments, everyone else has really enjoyed it and taken a lot from it as well. There's people saying it's just what they read right now. They're saying it's a really brave talk. They're saying that was really wholesome. I think everyone wants to work at Rare. Thank you so much. It feels like just the right talk to be giving at this time when we're all dealing with so much, and it's easy to forget some of these issues. Thank you again. Thank you, all our speakers. We are out of time. If you hear an alarm go off, then I might be locked in for the night. We'll figure that out. Thank you for everyone that's donated. We've raised over £2,000. I've not checked recently. We will still try and top that up. I'll email around all the Scottish Games companies, anyone that couldn't make it, and we'll keep the donations open for a while, and then we'll split them across a number of local NHS charities here. So thank you so much for that. Thank you to all the people that have donated prizes. And on that note, let us give away some prizes. So if I can share this other screen. In fact, let's just make that one full. Hi everyone. So I've just found out that apparently you didn't have a lot of audio for that last section. Basically, you'll have seen the numbers I picked. They've been assigned against everyone that's made a donation. I will email those people. I will put the names of the winners out because I know you've not been able to hear me. But just to say thank you very much for all the donations, all the prizes. It's been great. We've raised a ton of money. We'll try and get it up a little bit more. We'll keep the donation page open. Thank you very much. Good night.